Hey guys, welcome to Rhythmically Caffeinated. I'm your host, Stan Bicknell. Welcome to my drum cave. It is exactly stupid o'clock in the morning. It is 5:58. I'm here nice and early. Basically because my producer Paul asked me to do a little bit of a synopsis / summary of the shows I did with US Artist George Watsky.
Those fires in your attic that rage without permission. Some days invade your living room or break out in the kitchen. They breeze right through the building, they just show up as they please and then retreat like grown-up children. Well, how'd you like to split this L and tell me what you've witnessed? If the price of life is hell, well, no one ever had to sell me on how nice a fire smells.
I was super honored to get the message from George asking if I could jump in. He'd only played in Australia once, like 9 years ago, and he'd never played in New Zealand. And what was interesting is that there's a couple of things. The first thing is that his audience is so committed. Like they're all in. He does this thing called VIP where like you can pay, I think it was $100 US extra on top of your ticket, and you can come to the show 2 hours prior. He only sells 60 of these tickets, and you can hang out. You can come to the venue, and George comes down like. It's crazy. Like he comes down and he hangs out with those 60 people. They get a merch pack. They get photos. They get to talk to him about whatever they want, really. And at the first venue in Sydney, I was actually watching from above because there was like a mezzanine, and George was just so engaged in his audience. And then sure, they're paying for it, but he's all in, man, as much as they are. And there was, there's people with tattoos of his lyrics on them. There's couples that got married to his poetry. And it was just super interesting seeing how into it his audience was. And rightfully so. It's great music. He's really, really good. But I was just super impressed with how much he gave them as well. Even though they paid for it, I've seen that sort of VIP stuff before, and I think that George is very, very genuine with it. And not only that, but after those 2 hours that the crowd get, and then now they're in the venue getting ready for the show, and then the rest of the crowd turn up. He's only got like another half an hour, 45 minutes before we hit the stage. That's a lot of energy to be giving out and transferring just before a show, especially as a vocalist as well. And because he raps, like the lyrical recall and all of that. And he does say like it's pretty tiring, but he just absolutely loves doing it. So that was really cool to see. I thought I saw like quite a human side of him the whole time. For a guy that's been doing it as long as he has in this format, he wasn't jaded or anything. That was really cool. And then the other side of all of it was that the emotional side for them. So we played the Sydney show. That was really cool. At the end of the set, he asks the crowd, because he's got over 200 songs, is there any songs that they want to hear? And if so, hold up your phone with the lyrics of that song, and then the bass player, who's the MD essentially, the musical director, he'll come over and him and George will look for a song and they'll go, oh yeah, that's a cool one, we haven't done that in maybe 8 years, let's do that one. So the bass player goes over to the keyboard player, I'm going to remember their names as well, Camila Riccio is the singer. Max is the keyboard / trumpet player. And then who else have we got? Sneakers in the pool, that's right. Kush. Fucking hell. So the bass player, keyboard player, Kush, he's sort of like the MD. He goes over to Max, who's on keys and sax, and kind of goes to him, man, remember these chords? This is how it is. And him and Max sort of like figure the chords out. And then Kush came over to me and starts like, because the crowd is like making noise and it's like a big venue and you can't really hear much, and I've got my in-ears in, he actually beatboxes the beat on me. So he'd be like, he's like, you do that, man. And then, for example, every third bar you cut out, and then it's rim shot or side stick on the verse, and then drop the snare in on the chorus. And I'm like, cool, man. And he's like, okay, bro, you start it. And there's me just starting a song that I've never heard before and just going with the flow. And then all of a sudden, George is rapping lyrics he hasn't rapped for like 10 years. So we did 3 different songs at each gig at the end of the set. So 23 songs that I learnt, 3 songs that I hadn't at each gig. And that was really cool. And then in Auckland, the next night, that was the emotional side, which was what I was getting to. Because this was essentially his last gig ever as George Watsky, as the rapper Watsky in this format. He's on stage and we're connecting with the crowd, and it's going really well because New Zealand, his audience haven't seen him before. And man, like near the end of the set, like he totally starts breaking down. You know, it's like not losing it, but emotional, and there were some tears, and it was a real bookend to his whole thing. So it was such a weird situation for me to come in at. Only 2 shows, you know, a huge body of work, great experience, but then this whole emotional side of it for them as a band that I was just sort of like observing and sharing the moment with them. And it was really nice. It was, you know, we before we did our encore, so we walk off stage in Auckland and we go out the back, and everyone's really upset and sad, but in a sort of positive way as well. These guys, the band, have been playing with them for years as well, so they're a real tight crew, and it was just really nice to sort of share that moment with them. So, but yeah, like what an amazing experience. Awesome guys, made some new friends, learned some new styles and some new beats, and you know, like I'm always keen to work my memory muscle. That's why I take these gigs on. Now it's a pro level gig. It paid really well. Like it was like all those things were fine. You know, all the things that come with gigs like that were really, really awesome. But for me, it's like I only take on gigs that I want to do. I don't have this thing in my life where I have to take every opportunity that comes my way. So I have to weigh it up. So I listened to his music and it was hip hop groove based. And I'm like, fuck, that's awesome, with a little bit of color. So I got to chuck in some chops. I was listening to Madden. So as soon as I found out that she was the drummer that I was, following, I was like, fucking great. Get to listen to Madden for 6 weeks. That's awesome. And then when I found out that Sarah Thaua had toured with him as well, it was just a real honor to continue on the lineage of drummers that have played with him. And yeah, we finished the show in Auckland. I drove back that night, which is like a 2-hour, 40-minute drive from Auckland. So I got home at like 3 a.m. From then until now, which is a month later that I'm doing this wrap-up video, I've started my winter tour with Black Comet. I packed up the rental that we were living in, moved our house. Jess and I, 2.5 years ago, bought off the plans, so a land and package house deal, and the build completed like about a week after I got back from George and we moved in. So like the last few weeks have been fucking insane, but really, really awesome. All great stuff. I really want to give a shout out to Tōtara Street, which is where my drum studio is. Tōtara Street is a music school and it's a live venue, and I'm super grateful to have their support. This is where all this is, and I really, really love working with these guys. So yeah, I wanted to give a big shout out to Tōtara Street. If you're a band touring New Zealand and you're coming through the Bay of Plenty, make sure you hit them up. They're amazing. And if you want to get lessons on any instrument, or you've got kids that want to, the music school at the front is amazing as well. I also wanted to give a shout out to SE Electronics. I'm using their broadcaster style mic. This is called the Dynacaster. It's an amazing microphone. And I'm using Apogee interfaces as well. So I use Apogee for everything. I use them for my kit. I use their Element 88s. Their analog to digital conversion is insane. Raw, everything just sounds amazing. So for the podcast or for the video series, I'm using their Duet 3, which is just a super awesome interface. It's really, really easy to use. It looks stunning, and it's quite low profile and nice and discreet. And yeah, I think that's all the shout outs that I wanted to do. SE mics, Apogee interfaces, Tōtara Street, the venue, and this is Rhythmically Caffeinated. See you guys later. Oh, fuck.